Today I'm going to show you my Dagath build. I've seen a lot of build videos for Dagath, but they're all pretty much the same thing. You could watch Brozyme's video, and you pretty much have seen all the different builds that people have been making. It's kind of unfortunate that there's such a lack of creativity. I get that her moves are pretty much copied abilities, but with a better connection between them of other frames. Like, for instance, her 1 is Ureli's, her 2 is just Atlas's roar thing, her 3 is Wukong's old 3 slash with Geyer's 3, and then her 4 is kind of like Styanax's mixed with Gara's. So she's not very unique, and as a result, a lot of creators are not making unique builds, and I think that that's really boring and whack considering it's their literal fucking job is to make Warframe content. I was disappointed by the builds, so here's mine for today. Mine is kind of wacky zany. It's not meant for like level 999 endurance, and I always feel like it's laughable when people act like, oh, well, that can't do level cap. Well, most people aren't doing level cap. That's like 10 people. Sometimes I do level cap, and if you were going to do level cap with this build, you'd pretty much just need to add catalyzing shields there instead of overextended, because this will allow us to use 2 to get us a shield gate, a full shield gate, because we're using 2 auger mods on the pistol. Aside from that, you're pretty much good to go. Maybe even if you want your 1 to shield gate, you'd have to swap back to Brief Respite as an aura, but Brief Respite's kind of boring right now in my opinion. It's great, but whatever. So we're using Primed Continuity because we need a little bit of duration mostly on her 3 when we die. It gives us a little bit of extra time. 2 seconds isn't much, but it also helps tremendously with Lyceth's Hunt. I subsumed off the 4. Her 4 is very good. I'm not going to explain every ability. I'm assuming you know what they mean because you've probably watched other creators. So duration's helping everything, strength's helping everything, yada yada yada. We're using a lot of strength. We're using energy conversion, and I like to get the energy conversion orb before I cast the 3 because it'll snapshot that buff. Because we're using combat discipline, I'm using Arcane Reaper. It's kind of overkill on it. You could just use a single shard, a single Jolly Rancher Tau shard or whatever the fuck they're called, and that would suffice. Maybe 2 at max. But I don't even need this, and we'll see why in a little bit. So we're using Arcane Avenger because her 3 gives us critical damage, a lot of critical damage, and this is ensuring that we pretty much get critical hits on even stuff with no critical chance at all, because it's proccing that. So that's that, and the melee we're using is the Dorrclave, her new one. Again, this, after 10 kills, gain 50% follow through, 100% status chance for the next 10 attacks, and this is the important part, gains 6 health per active status effect on struck enemies when wielded by Dagath. Now, it doesn't say if it's a unique status effect, so I'm assuming it's just in general a status effect. So, again, this is why we don't really need Arcane Reaper, because this alone is healing us, but it's just nice to have the guarantee, the backup strats on backup strats, as they say. The build is pretty bog standard. We're using some Glad mods. You could replace these if you wanted to. A couple replacements you could do. You could replace Quickening with Berserker Fury so that you can get faster swing speed. I like having a little bit of combo count chance. Additionally, you could replace Glad Rush with Dispatch Overdrive or Relentless Combination so that you can replace this and get more critical chance. Additionally, you could replace the Glad mod if you really wanted to with Weeping Wounds, but because of the passive of this weapon, I feel like it's not really necessary to do that. Now, we're using Condition Overload because everything's going to innately have viral because of her abilities, and this is doing slash. So innately, this is going to have 160% damage, which is almost prime pressure point, but as you'll see in a second, we are always going to have a lot of status effects applied to enemies, so having that 5% difference at all times is negligible because it's going to be much higher than that. We're using a mag progenitor Kuva Nukor. This is giving us our shield gate 80%. So this is what it's allowing us to use our 2 ability as a shield gate when we're using the new catalyzing shield mod. Now it is built for viral, which is probably not optimal considering her kit, but I just like to have that guarantee for if for whatever reason, essentially if you mess up and you don't have any energy or you can't use abilities because of the you're being paused by silence or what have you, it just guarantees viral. And then it doesn't really matter because we're using secondary encumber, which will allow us to apply every single element to whatever we're shooting at because it has a lot of status chance. So that's that. And then for our pet, this is kind of a work in progress, but it works very well. Cordon, because it groups up everything, which is pairing nicely with Manifold Bond. Mods apply status effects from companion weapons, which means that this should apply. Some of them are glitched though, so it may or may not work, but it will, as expressed by the devs in one of their dev posts. Killing enemies with 3 or more unique status effects reduces companion ability cooldowns by 3% or 3 seconds. So this will pretty much, that cooldown of 15 seconds will pretty much be erased because everything's going to have a lot more than 3 statuses. And well, unique status effects. Everything that we face is going to have viral, slash, and gas and electric, and we'll see why the gas and electric in a second. Duplex Bond, another new one. Each time I expend 100 energy, I get a clone. The clone lives for 30 seconds and can't use abilities, but it'll shoot my gun, which is very, very good. Their kills, it's not going to be killing stuff, so you don't have to worry about that part. Shield Charger, because we're a little squishy, and Guardian, because we're a little squishy. A lot of people say that the synth set is completely dead. I don't think so, because this particular build, we need a lot of orbs to sustain. That's kind of like the gimmick of this build, and this is giving us more orbs, so yay. And then that's pretty much that. Now, I mentioned the gas and electric. We're getting that from this little guy. You could swap it for viral, which this would do viral heat, which would also work very well, but I wanted to try a little something cuckoo, a little bit nutty, but even with viral heat, it will apply everything we need. This is applying puncture, impact, gas, and electric to everything. A lot of people just see the 2 and they think it's just applying these because those are the highest values. No, it's applying all of these. So this is applying our duplex. It said 3 unique status effects. Well, there's 4 for you. And then that's also working extremely nicely with Lyceth's Hunt so that we can have the duration extended without really doing anything. In case I didn't explain this very well, melee kills are going to drop health orbs and headshots are going to drop energy orbs. What's interesting about this is that if your melee kill hits a headshot, this can potentially drop both. I have seen it drop both, but you know, it's hard to say if it stacks with everything, like with the synth set and whatever. I don't know, to be honest with you. If anyone has some clarifying information on that, I've looked on the wiki and I couldn't find anything. I'm using Nariman because I like the melee. It pauses the melee combo counter depletion essentially, and it allows us to, some of these allow us to get the critical chance and stuff higher and allow us to get combo count faster. But if you're going for something like level cap or whatever, you would replace overextended with catalyzing shields, and then you would swap to Vazarin because Vazarin has Guardian Shell. This way, when you're 3 procs and you have to wait the 25 seconds to get it back, this is going to help a lot for that 25 seconds. This is going to make it no problem at all, but aside from level cap, you won't need any of that shit. So I'm going to be versing these guys. These guys are very high level enemies. Now, as I said before, that orb is from our energy conversion mod. So I like to have that before I hit the 3. It doesn't really matter if you have that before you hit anything else. But as you can see, popping that once, that's the bond thing. So as you can see, it's firing our Hellstrom, which is insane. So it's proccing a lot of statuses on them. Part of it is it's out of range. These things, sometimes they follow me around and sometimes they don't. I don't really understand the rhyme or reason to it, but because everything's grouped up, it's applying it to like everything in the room in a very quick succession. So I'm going to start by just meleeing them as is. I'm not going to use any abilities yet, just so you can kind of see, like, I guess the power of the melee or whatever. Now keep in mind, I like to equate, these guys are about, say you do a normal survival mission for like about an hour. This is kind of the difficulty of enemies you would be facing after about an hour. Say you do the Kuba tile set. Like, I know it says that they're only level 170, but they have crazy high defenses. So I like to use these guys as a test because I usually, at the hour point, I usually cut it out as that's usually when we have like a desync and everybody gets kicked and you lose an hour of progress. Now I'm using the Strun. It's not really even worth mentioning the build because it's just a standard viral slash build, which this alone can proc viral like its hunt when it's all cooked up and it's got its incarnate mode. So I'm going to summon it again. This time we're going to use some abilities. Now, if you don't want to have to constantly cast abilities to ensure viral, you could, of course, swap your Hellstrom to apply viral and heat innately, which is very good. It doesn't really matter, honestly. I'll swap it just for the sake of showing you it, but it really doesn't matter. As long as you have the Hellstrom, it's going to apply sufficient elements. Now, I'm going to get my orb on. And then I'm going to unpause them so we can kind of see semi-gameplay. As you can see, I'm only using my melee, and our Lycat's Hunt was still going up in timer, even though our Hellstrom is set to viral heat, because it is also applying puncture and impact. So a lot of it, her survivability is from her 1. The slowdown is extremely impressive. It is allowing us to, like, not worry about literally anything, especially because our 3 is the super backup strat. I'm gonna respawn them and just kind of, I guess, let them kill me, just so we can see what that looks like. But because when we cast pretty much any of our abilities, we're spawning all these little Hellstrom bots, they pretty much, I don't know what's going on since the update, but they've been like stun locking everything. So it really makes it so that everything's powerless, even without like goddamn near any survivability mods. Now this is the difficult part, when your cooldown wears up and all of a sudden it's time to worry a little bit because we don't have our backup strat. So when this happens, you do have to make sure you're spamming a lot, but make sure you're also not wasting your rolling guard and whatnot. And when you're waiting for your thing to cool down, if your rolling guard's off, you can also, of course, swap to operator for a second. Oh, I used the wrong ability, there we go. And now, like, as long as your 3's up, one thing I love about her is that as long as you have your 3 up, you don't have to worry about anything in the world. Especially because when you do have it proc, you'll get even more orbs, which just stacks excellently with our super orb game. These grenades, by the way, will pretty much one-hit anything past the shield gate, even if you have like 1,000,000 HP. I just thought that was noteworthy. So I guess let's go into a real mission. I guess I'll show the Strun I'm using in case you're wondering, as I didn't showcase this, but it really doesn't matter. This is viral and slash. This particular build, we have 546% status, and I'm using a minus impact ribbon with multi-shot. The magazine capacity does not affect the incarnate mode, which is quite unfortunate, but essentially if you were to get a Strun ribbon for yourself, all you want is minus impact and multi-shot, of course, but the minus impact is a huge damage increase. I'm just going to take it off for a split second so you can see the impact go way up. The impact goes higher than the puncture and even the slash. Puncture is kind of bad, but it is nice getting that extra flat critical chance from it. Especially because the impact is very big on the Incarnate Fire. I see right now it's 24, and then we'll look at it go all the way up to 102. So just any sort of minus impact ribbon, ideally you would just want 2 so the values are higher, but nobody's going to complain if they get 3 with good stats, right? And very quickly I will show the things I have on it, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so let's go into an actual mission now, and I'll show you what this baby can do. Now, as I said, if you were going to do level cap, maybe disruption or what have you, you might need to change up a few things, sacrifice some range for some survivability, but it's like, not many people are doing level caps these days. It's mostly you do level cap like once a month, so you can take some Facebook photos or what have you. So what's a good place to do some missioning? I guess we'll do Kuva Fortress this time. Let's find a nice, oh, we're not even on Steel Path mode. There we go. And I have had to, there's been a lot to test. There's been Hydra changes, there's been a lot of pet changes, Dagath came out, shield gate changes, so I don't expect my build to be completely perfect for pretty much anything I'm using right now, and I've gotten into a weird place where, just with the game in general, where I'm kind of like, I don't know who or what to play. Normally it was just like, alright, I'll use Valkyrie or Limbo, but my min-max builds are, right now they're kind of in trouble, I guess you could say. I don't know if they're perfectly min-maxed anymore, at least for my particular play style. So I'm in a weird place where I don't really know what to who to play, but I keep coming back to Dagath. A lot of people don't like her, they think that she's boring. I'm actually enjoying her a lot. And maybe that's just because my build is kind of like high-ish octane, where you gotta cast a lot and use abilities. But who knows? But this level is very good for her. Her kit, because there's the hallways and stuff, so you don't really have to worry. Now my shield went down a couple times. My pet's saving my ass right now. Part of it is you really want to make sure you get Lycat's Hunt up so that you can have the sustain. Because just having a little bit of shields helps a lot, and our Kuva Nucor Augur mods are getting us that little bit of shields. Oh, and I would like to mention, I do, as you can tell, I have a little bit of red outline on these enemies. Isn't that crazy? A little bit of red outline. Incredible. The auto melee changes too, I forgot to mention, have made my life a lot easier. There's been times where I've just completely stopped using melee completely because it gets strenuous on hands and whatnot. But now I can just hold the bumper on my controller. My controls are all weird and I'm using a pro controller, so it is what it is. But for shards, I don't have any shards on her yet. I'm actually not really sure what to put on her, if I should do some health and armor, because my build is kind of squishy, but it only scales so far. But I'm thinking if you just, because I'm not using her 4, which her 4 is very good, it has a high casting speed. Her other casting speeds are pretty fast though, so I think I might just go all strength on her to try and reach that 100% damage spread, because right now I'm not at 100% as I'm using overextended, but when without overextended and when the energy transfer thing works, I believe that's the 100%. But you know, with shards though, that should theoretically, I believe that would get me to the 100%. I might need a Tau Forge or 2 though, but I might invest into it. Right now I have 3 Taus on Banshee that I might swap over for this because I'm really enjoying. I know this is brainless and I'm just slapping, just holding the melee button, but because we have low shields, there's a little bit more involved. You know, you don't want your 3 to proc. You know, you don't want to be in the death state, but it's amazing to have that backup. It's a very comfy Warframe in general, especially because it gives you the HP orbs after in her passive, which boosts their potency is very good. I see a lot of people doing Energize on her. I guess you could probably do Energize instead of using Lycat's Hunt or whatever, but it is what it is. Now I'm noticing as I play here that I'm not getting the stacks as much as I normally do, which is fine. for my Lycus hunt, but it is what it is. If I swap to gas electric, that would be much more efficient, but I just have to kill a couple things and then it's all the way. See, we have 60 seconds now. It's totally fine. And sorry about that, I had to change my audio settings. I thought I was set to solo, apparently not. I don't want these randoms to start using slurs and whatnot. But, so that's why I was AFK. But, from my experience, there's pretty much nothing that you have to worry about with her. Pretty much nothing at all. So it's a lot of people are building her with adaptation, with brief respite, with catalyzing shields, and because she kills everything so well, I don't find it to be too needed. Whoops. But I'll probably leave at the 10-minute mark. Oh. Oh, I totally forgot about the Kuva Catalyst even. Oh well. One thing, I normally test stuff out on Luvival, because these hallways make it extremely easy to survive. You can just walk down the hallway and nothing's there. The Kuvival, or the Luvival, I feel like is a lot harder to navigate spaces without getting pooped on. One thing about the most recent update that I kind of want to rant out, I always loved Hydroid. I felt like he was like my frame because not many people used him. So it's just kind of annoying now that like you don't have to have a crazy build with him to make him good. So it's just kind of annoying that now every lobby I see Hydroids, because he's not my frame anymore. I'll still play him, but it's like he's everyone's frame now, right? It's kind of like, I don't like Doja Cat's music anymore. I used to. It's not that it's bad or to deride anyone who listens to her music. It's just not my thing anymore, but like I used to listen to her way back in the day, before even her song that's like Make You Say Moo or whatever, her cow song was like what really blew her up. But I had a couple tracks from her before that, and now that she's like a superstar and everyone knows her, it's not the same. It's not the same feeling as like, well, this is my musician, you know. Now Doja Cat's like the world's musician, I guess you could say. Even though I don't really like her music anymore, it's kind of like when you're with someone a lot and they're listening to music a lot, you kind of start to listen to it just by proxy, and I guess that's a better way to describe how I was introduced to Doja Cat. But I like listening to small artists, not because it's like, oh, look how cool I am, I'm listening to small artists. It's the small indie artists and whatnot always have a unique like taste and feel to them. Something you can't, well, not always by any means, but a lot of times you can't get that feel, I guess you could say, anywhere else, which I like, and that's my that's a big reason why I'm kind of sad about Hydroid, because now he doesn't have that niche feel. Like a lot of times I had a specific circuit build for him, which could pretty much nuke, but it was reliant on getting certain status spread decrees, and of course, you know, have to have like a specific weapon, or not a specific weapon, but have like a decent weapon, be it a melee or like anything, rifle, pistol. But I would constantly get people to be like, wow, I've never seen like Hydra do anything, and you're like nuking. Like, what the fuck's going on? I would get that a lot in Circuit as Hydroid. Be it, you know, part of it was the decrees and whatnot, but still, it was impressive. Now, Hydroid can nuke without it, I foresee that I'll never get any excited players being like, wow, I've never seen like a good Hydroid before. I don't know, not to feel vain or toot my own horn, but it feels good when people are like, wow, what is your build? I need to know. And now that Hydroid's so good, even without a brain, I don't think I'll get that comment again. But it is good. I'm glad other people can enjoy him now. I loved the puddle ability. I felt that was like his identity for me, was the puddle. So I am sad that's gone. And as you saw, that this Hydroid player got downed before. Not to discourage him or desiccate him or whatever, deprecate him. Not to say he's bad or what have you, but I always loved the puddle because it was your infinite health like fallback measure. His new replacement of that is very good, but it's not a fucking pause button that literally pauses the fucking game. So I am disappointed by that, but you know, it is like better, but it's just health and armor, which only scales so far, but whatever. Now as far as Dagath goes, I think she does need a little bit of work, just because a lot of people are only building her one way, as I mentioned before. I don't like when frames only have like one way of being built. Like Revenant is a good example of that. Oh, just build match strength Revenant. Sure, you could like build for other stuff, but why would you? I like when frames like Hydroid, you could say, is his rework is great because you can build him multiple different ways now. I've seen a variety of different builds with his new kit, but Dagath, I'm seeing either you build for nuking everything with her 4, or you're adding like Nourish or Roar on her, and you're doing the same old. I haven't seen anyone, not to say that no one has, just maybe I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anyone build her for a melee build frame, which, considering the new melee changes, I really wanted to do, which is where my build comes from. I would like to see, she does need some tweaks, I would say, mostly in the form of QOL. Like, she doesn't need massive, huge buffs or whatever, but I think some of the things to make her 4, for example, a lot of abilities you cast it, and at the end of the cast is where the ability will go. But with her, it's the start of the ability. Where you start is where it will go. You can't really change it. Where Limbo, for example, the start of the cast, I can precisely aim. Stuff like that, I feel like should be changed a little bit. What else? There was a couple other things I'm forgetting right now that could give her some QOL. One thing that I think she could use is that nothing affects the cooldown of her 3 when it procs, which I would like to see something affect that, because then you could build specifically for dying, right? You could build her for lowering her range and maxing duration. I think that would be very cool and unique to have like a build focused on dying. But I mean, maybe there's a reason they haven't done that. Maybe it would break the game. I doubt it, but it would be nice to see something in that regard, because right now there's no reason to make a max duration build on her, in my opinion, solely because even if you do have a very long like bleed out timer or whatever it's called of her 3 when you die, it's still you're still faced with the reality that you're gonna have a 25-second timer, which is very steep. So I think Ivara is a good example of a frame that is built with variety in mind, because, you know, if you take away all her range, then she can't loot as much from her prow, and her 1 becomes inefficient, and if you're trying to nuke with her 3, you know, it affects that. So I feel like a lot of Ivara is one of the pinnacles of balance. She's by no means like a top tier frame Well, some people would argue, I'm sure, but she's an extremely good tier frame. But I think she's like excellently balanced. And I would like to see more frames be excellently balanced like her in terms of build variety, where you can build for her 2 or build for her 1 and using crit wire, or build for her 3 or build for her 4. Like there's variety there. Whereas with Dagath, it's pretty much, you know, build for her 4 or don't build for her 4. You know, I guess, as you could say. But I guess that's just Warframe in general these days, where a lot of the builds are just building for nourish. You know, there's a lot less creativity in general, but I think that some of the builds focusing around pets I've been seeing recently are fantastic to see. I think the pets in general can create a lot of diverse builds. But that being said, you know, having your pet built a certain way is no excuse for not creating Warframes to be built with multiple builds in mind. Again, harping on Revenant, it's pretty much just build him for strength. You could build him for range, but I've never in practice seen someone use him in range aside from like Hydroid nuking 4 builds, which kind of suck, to be honest. they're like copium builds. It's like there's a much better nuker frame you could be using, but you just want to play Revenant, essentially. But overall, I think that the most recent update was fantastic. I'm still trying to wrap my head around some of the shield gating changes, to be honest with you, because some of my builds no longer reach the breakpoint, so to say, that I could reach before. Now it's like, well, I'll have to equip a little bit, one more auger mod, or, you know, stuff like that to reach the percent I was reaching before. My Valkyr build in general, I had to swap off continuity and put in the new catalyzing shield mod, which hampered my mod space and made its convenience slightly lower, which is not really a big deal, but I felt like before, a lot of people don't like my Valkyr build, but my play style, she's perfect. I would consider her a perfect min-max frame considering how I play, and now it's like, well, you know, a little bit more, a tiny bit more duration for continuity would be really nice. So it's just unfortunate that my mod space is slightly tighter, although she does play pretty much the same, but it took her 4 duration for me from 20 seconds to 15, which, you know, sometimes those extra few seconds are very important. A lot of people, just in games in general, are like, oh, well, that's only 1 or 2 seconds being added to this thing. Take Dead by Daylight, for example, or any competitive game. Whoop. Having seconds is huge. A lot of competitive games are based on split second, absolute split seconds. So to say, oh, well, that's just a second or two, kind of seems uninformed to me, or maybe you're not doing the same levels of content that I'm doing, I guess, rather, because that's a lot of people in Dead by Daylight are like, whoa, this is only 2 seconds, but yeah, there's been times where, you know, I could have gotten a 4K, I could have killed everybody, but I was literally 2 seconds. If I didn't break that pallet that took like 0.75 seconds to break, if I didn't break that one unnecessary pallet, I could have gotten the 4K, you know, stuff like that, where I think that translates into Warframe, where especially with the shield gate changes, you know, that extra little bit of shield gate allowed my rolling guard to regen, so now I'm safe. So I'm going to cut this short in just a second. We're going to go to just 20 mark. I try not to make these videos last super long time, and I do apologize for lately I haven't been editing my videos. I'm making money IRL. Working a full-time job and editing videos is very difficult. That's why it greatly upsets me that a lot of these frame YouTubers put no effort into their content at all. I think that Nightmare Frame and Asian Invasion are great examples of content creators for Warframe who do put effort into their videos. You can tell there's never like a Asian Invasion video where I was like, bro, your video was a bit too loud, or oh, your math is wrong, stuff like that. And they're usually honest about, like, you need to change some things for certain content or whatever. But some of the other, I don't want to put any disparaging remarks, but there's a lot of content creators who you know, they'll just post like, here are all the Warframe codes, and it's just a one-take rip, and it's like, I don't understand how some of the content creators are, you know, they're not even using dialogue, they're just using voice-to-speech, and their video uses the same music every single time, and it's still this lazy. I don't understand, but for a lot of people, like Gamble, for example, he does similar video uploads. It's not like he's the only one, but he, just as an example, because I know he's a lot bigger than I am. Obviously, I'm a literal who, but his videos are unedited and just uploaded like mine. But I'm sure he has, like, he's obviously not making money from making Warframe content. He probably has 3,000 subscribers. Just guessing, you're not making money off that. If you do, it's like 40 cents. So for smaller channels, I can totally understand, or even with just a few thousand subscribers, I can understand not making crazy edits and whatnot. But some of these channels, man, Warframe, they literally make a living off of Warframe. There's no excuse for having such lazy, god-awful content. Even if the build's good, like Nightmare Frame will do a really good build, and then he'll also have an intro. Stuff like that. Just have fun with your videos. I can tell with a lot of the creators, just in general, not even with Warframe, but a lot of the creators are just like, this is my job. And you could tell that the passion and the fun has gone from them. But again, not to suck Nightmare Frame's cock, but I think it's great that he does a lot of, sometimes people be like, oh, your opening's cringy or whatever. But like, bro is obviously having fun with it. And I think that that's awesome. It's always awesome to see someone's fun come through into their video. I think that makes the whole experience of watching the video much more enjoyable, in my opinion. So I do apologize that my content is not as highly edited as some of my other videos were. I meticulously edited a lot of my previous videos, but that was kind of during like COVID stuff, where not having to go into the office and not working as long. Now that I'm fully working away, I apologize, but I have been working on some edited videos, so hopefully if you are subscribed, I don't expect you to subscribe. I watch a lot of content creators that I don't subscribe to, so don't feel like you have to suckle on the teat of that subscribe button. But if you are subscribed, I do have some actually edited videos that aren't just Dagath and Chill style videos. But that's pretty much the end of this run. As you can see, I did die there when I was swapping to party chats. That we wouldn't hear any slurs from this guy, or that I wouldn't disrupt his play. But generally speaking, I could run an hour. The test I did was an hour of her, and I didn't have to revive myself at all. Which, we have like 7 revives, so it doesn't really even matter. But I don't like to ever have to rely on anyone for any sort of content in Warframe. It is nice when there's that team content where your team is compromised to work with each other, but we don't always have our best buds on, especially with work and whatnot. So that's been the Dagath build. If you like it, the only way you can let me know that you liked it is to Google Google something controversial that's politically politically motivated controversies. Yeah, bye.